Hello everybody and welcome back to Victoria 3, where we don't have much population, and that is something we absolutely need to deal with. Now, I was looking through our journal, and there's this from farms to factories entry here. So industrialists need to not be marginalized for that, and peasants would need to control, or rather be, less than 35% of the population, which obviously they're about 50% of the population, like 45, something like that, somewhere around there. So that's obviously an issue, and we're not making much money, and you can argue, well, that's because of consumption-based taxation. Well, not necessarily. It's really actually more of an issue of our population. So if we look here, we can see land-based would be 160 extra pounds, per capita would be 99.8, proportional would be 30, and graduated taxation would be 36. These are not significantly higher amounts of taxation. So for right now, we don't need to pursue changing our taxation so much as we need to pursue increasing our population and ideally our land. That's why we're going for colonization right now. We'd like to colonize out over this direction and maybe beat the US to some of this out here. But after we finish up professional army, which should be relatively soon, I'm currently strongly considering going for backing off of propertied women to legal guardianship for that sweet, sweet 5% birth rate. I feel like we need the population. So for now, we're going to tick forward and we'll continue our constructions, but I mean, what we need right now more than anything is to get our literacy up. And our population, obviously. Now, our population is already growing by 3.43% annually, so that's pretty okay. But we have a small population to begin with, so the actual number is only about 2,000 people. Gold was discovered in Victoria. Cool. That's not in our territory. So that's not very relevant, at least right now. And we're, of course, part of... we're part of the British Empire at this point, right? So Canada is definitely a thing. Columbia District, Hudson Bay Company, Upper Canada, and Lower Canada. But we exist as a buffer state between Canada and the US. I mean, there's also this border up here, so it's a little bit questionable, but sure. So that seems relatively fine for now. The question is, how quickly are we going to get through professional army? And I think the answer to that is pretty quickly. Hopefully. We have a 58% chance here. We have a 1% stall chance. Hilarious. Okay, so we're about 3 days until we get this tick. Let's see what happens. Straight to amendment. I love it. Okay, so that's very solid. We're, of course, working on our farms at the moment, which we should be able to get illiterate peasants to work on farms. That's good. We want to drop our peasant count, but we also need to get our... let's see here, politics. We need to get our industrialists to no longer be marginalized, right? And we can see they currently are. There are no industrialists at this moment. So we might want to consider bringing in an agitator. So let's see here. What is this guy? He is a pacifist. Well, we definitely don't want that right now. This guy's a traditionalist. These are only show available, please. This is the only guy who can be brought in here. That's not particularly useful for us right now. So I'll have to wait until another agitator is available then. Okay. Well, one of our maize farms just finished up, and that is, of course, a very, very good thing. We should see a fair number of peasants get put to work on that, hopefully. That would be ideal. And we'll be seeing our literacy rate slowly ticking up, which we can see is indeed happening. So that looks relatively good. But it's definitely going to be a bit of a slow start. But our GDP, wow, it's kind of soaring right now. That's just off of one maize farm. That's insane. Okay, so that's definitely a thing. And we have now hit 60K on our population. So we're continuing to grow here. And we can see we're ticking up actually pretty quickly here. I like it. That's very, very good. So keeping an eye on this. Ah, that progressed straight into voting. This is a very good sign. And we're losing our power rank. We need 15 prestige, and we currently have 15. Okay, so our prestige is not amazing, right? I want to check in here, actually. We've got these government wages. We could sack our prestige, but I don't think there's really a reason to do so. And of course, changing our taxes does give us a little bit more revenue. So currently, we've got that legitimacy. I'm thinking we should probably boost this up here. Probably. That's going to make us a little bit more. Not that we need it. I mean, we're wildly over our gold reserves, right? But that's understood. So that's fine for now. And what we're really, really interested in right now is seeing that peasant number drop. And in fact, it is. We can see it's currently sitting a little bit above 30%. So if we look at from farms to factories here, it's clearly over 35, but it's very close. So that looks very, very solid. So for this, we need to become independent. And for this, we need to have industrialists not be marginalized and have fewer peasants. So that's absolutely what we are working on here. So that seems absolutely fine for right now. And as soon as professional army passes, which there's a very, very solid chance that it passes here in just a few days, we're going to go to legal guardianship because I want more birth rate. We really need to deal with our population. Like, we need a lot of population very quickly. So that is something that we are absolutely going to do. And this maize farm is going to be done in just a little while as well, so that looks good. Okay, so there's professional army. That's great. So now what we need to do is we need to come into here and we need to say, what do we want to go for next, right? We could go to land-based taxation. It would be a bit of a fight. However, legal guardianship would actually be quite easy to do. So we're going to do that. Now, this is definitely a little bit regressive in terms of, like, the marginalizations. That's not necessarily ideal, but we're doing this specifically because we want additional birth rate. So that'll be fine. 15 peasants and 7.58k peasants moving to Indiana. Okay, so the aggressive removal policies of the United States of America has driven whole nations out of their homelands. Many bands have chosen to flee from American control and join the cause of Tecumseh, including several groups who previously rejected Tecumseh's pleas for unity. Indeed. Fantastic. So we're very, very happy to have a large immigration of all of these guys coming in. Excellent. That is great. That jumps us up to 68.53k. And actually very few of those are currently peasants. Our peasant count only went up by about 2k there. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. We see that there is a little bit of radicalism starting to build up. That's understood. Okay, so that is looking fine for now. We can see that our GDP is definitely growing, and our literacy rate, actually most of these that came in were literate. That's a very good thing too. That explains why they didn't go into peasant jobs, because they were able to occupy the non-peasant jobs that we've been constructing. So that sounds fantastic. I still want to increase our birth rate. So we're gaining about an extra 300 per year at this point. That sounds good. So for now, everything is reasonably okay, right? Financially, things are not the best in the world. That's for sure. Ah, grassroots support for the law. So we hit an advance here. That's not an ideal advance, but I guess we'll take some loyalists. That's okay. And if we check in here, we're still chilling at a 100 righteous government. So that sounds absolutely fine. So we don't have access to raise this up at all. We cannot afford the 9 bureaucracy required for that level. And if we check in on our government administration situation here, we can see that we still have a big lack of employees here. And that's not necessarily surprising. So we're going to continue to work on the literacy and get some of these peasants moved into better jobs, would be the idea. These guys, they can probably fight. Who are they? Let them fight. Excellent. So that'll be okay for now. Wow, we're having really, really fast phases here. 80 days? That's very quick. So that's good. We're very happy about that. And we see we're pushing up towards 70k now for our population. So we're definitely boosting our population, but we need more. We need a lot more, in fact. I would be very interested as well in getting some universities going here. We could get a fair amount done there, but we just don't have the literacy to work the universities, right? So I don't think there's any real point in building that when we could be building jobs for unskilled laborers like these. So I think that's what we're going to have to do for the time being. So if we check here, we can see we're down to 21.8k peasants. That's something anyway. Advance again. Wow. Unfortunate. So 15% enactment success chance. Yes, we're going to take that. So that is absolutely excellent, bringing us up to 65. I like it. And for the time being, we are going to be dropping our workforce by 5%, but we're going to be increasing our birth rate by 5%. So that is going to be extraordinarily significant. Now, one thing I'm questioning right now is, let's see here. Where do we see our sources of population growth? So, I mean, we've got this here, right? So it can be migration, it can be birth rate. There's a lot of reasons why our population is going up, right? My question is, where is the actual breakdown of that? Is that not in here? Pop growth. That's just is growing or is shrinking. That's not ideal. There's gotta be a place to see that. I'd like to see what percentage of this is migration and what percentage of it is birth rate. Well, we can see by the fact that we're going negative here that we're definitely getting people to work in our higher end government jobs. So that is absolutely fantastic to see. We want to be net negative right now because our gold reserves are just too high. So that looks fine for now. 21.4k peasants at this point. Understood. So we will see what ends up happening with legal guardianship here. That should, in theory, go reasonably quickly, and then we're probably going to need to pull in an agitator to get additional law changes. This guy is still the only agitator available, and that is certainly unfortunate. What political movements do we have here right now? Ethno-nationalist as our core movement ideology here. That's not particularly useful to us right now, I feel like. Because what we really want to be changing is, I mean, health system we would mostly just need medical degrees for. And we did just progress to amendment, so that's good. I'm just thinking about what we might want to go for next, after propertied women, right? Slavery is already banned. That's a good sign. So there's that. I would really like to get a health system going. For that, we would need medical degrees. So where is medical degrees here? Right here? 35 months? Done. We'll go for medical degrees, and then after that, we can go for, like, nationalism into pan-nationalism. So that's going to be a while, right? That's going to be a very, very long process, but that's okay. We'll get the colonization done in just a couple of months here. So that would be absolutely great. And let's see what happens with legal guardianship here. So we're at 66% on that, making good progress. We've got a tobacco plantation coming in now, and we can see we've crested 70k on our population, so that is definitely making progress. But we need a lot more. We're down to 18k peasants, though. Hang on. We're still apparently 35%. What is 18 divided by 70? That's 25%. Huh. That's interesting. 18 divided by 70 is 25%. Will complete if peasants is less than 35% of total population. Maybe there's a ratio there. Maybe this includes dependents. I don't know. That would be interesting if it did. regardless, we want to increase, or rather decrease, our percentage of our percentage of peasants anyway. So it's absolutely fine. We'll continue to work on that. We have reached 16% literacy, so that's something. Excellent. And we're up in voting on legal guardianship now. We've sailed through this quite quickly, so that is fantastic. So these are our only actual interest groups. Basically, all of the interest groups are marginalized, which is certainly fascinating. No doubt about that. So we're looking to boost our birth rate here and see where that takes us. We're at about 3.43%. Sometimes it fluctuates up to 3.44. Okay. So that looks good, and our peasant count is continuing to drop here, which is excellent. We are, of course, delighted by this. So maybe they're talking about, when they say of total population, maybe they're referring to our working population. So our gainfully employed are 10.8k, and our peasants are 17k. Maybe that's what they're referring to. I don't know, but there's colonization unlocked. So we can't actually colonize yet because we need to put in an institution for that. And that is understood. We're on no colonial affairs right now, so we're going to have to switch over our laws, but no one wants this. Okay, amazing. I should have looked at that before we did this. But there's legal guardianship, so that's 5% birth rate. Excellent. Let's see what we've got now. 3.66? Not bad. Okay, so as far as law changes go, what could we go to? Well, we could go to traditionalism. I think that's a bad idea. I don't necessarily think that's good. We're on industry banned right now, right? So plus 30% government dividends efficiency. Agriculture and plantation throughput. Nationalization investment return. Sure. Yeah, I think this is fine. I think we're going to not go to traditionalism at this moment. So we could go to a local police force. Boosting up the political strength of the big men is not really a problem. So there's that. Anything else that we'd be interested in? I mean, there's not really all that much that we can change. Not at this moment, anyway. So I think going to local police force is probably the way to go here. And that'll be fine for right now. Okay, so we can see our GDP has basically doubled since we started the game, and our population is definitely growing at a pretty decent rate as well. We're currently about 30% higher on our raw numerical growth, which is really, really solid to see. I'm very happy to see that already. So that's good. 3.67 seems fine. Now, a big chunk of that is, of course, that immigration event that we got. So that's great. We're very happy about that. So for now, we're going to continue to work on these constructions. This is, of course, going to be very, very slow. And if we check in on our construction sector, we've only got the one. We can see that it's only got 1.1k workers. So that is understood. 10.4 construction each week. Okay, it's not a lot. And we're not negative financially. So we need to grow into this, obviously. So 2.63k annually at this point, it's not bad. It's really not bad. We just need more growth. So we'll see about passing local police force. I would love to get colonization passed, and in order to do that, how would we go about passing at least frontier colonization? No one is in favor of it. Well, the petite bourgeoisie are, but they're marginalized. The Great Medicine Society and the Confederate Army are not happy. Who's in government right now? Rural folk, Great Medicine Society, and Confederate Army. Okay. So that gives us a 100 righteous government at this moment. That's noted. It would be a fight if we wanted to pass colonization. That might be something to do after we pass local police force. It may or may not actually happen. In fact, it likely would not actually happen. But it might not be a bad thing to do if we don't have any other law changes to try, right? So it's better than just wasting the time and not actually running this. So currently we can see 31 months left on medical degrees, and that'll be our next major law change. So yeah, I think that's fine for the moment. Do we have another consumption tax we can put in? Yes, we do. We have a bunch of 50s that we can put in here. So that would be like tea. Okay, that seems fine for now. That'll boost our income a little bit, but really not very much. How much are we getting from government dividends? Very, very little. Dividend efficiency is 46.8 currently. Okay. It would be 55% except for our bureaucracy deficit, but we're working on that. That is actively being worked on. Earning recognition is advancing. Actually, it's not advancing right now. It did advance a little bit. Average standard of living and low literacy rate, both of which we're working on. So that seems fine for now. We don't have any upper strata pops. Hilarious. So local police force is now advancing to voting. And we are up to 16.4% literacy. So we're at number 102 in literacy at this moment. But in terms of population, we're at number 311. We got a ways to go. So that is absolutely understood. And that's why I wanted to go for the higher birth rate fairly early on here. So that is going reasonably well. 2.65k at this juncture. And we need to be definitely working on bringing down our peasant count. So this is still not checked off. Noted. And we would love to have some form of industrialists. There are still no industrialists. So that's understood. Apparently this guy is a leader of the industrialists. Okay. But he's also not interested in doing anything, and no one actually supports him. So he's the only one. There are no other industrialists. Hilarious. Okay, this is currently going down because of our GDP per capita being below the top 50. Sure. That's understood. We weren't expecting to actually earn recognition yet. I was a little surprised that that popped up at all. So that is fine. And we have attracted new supporters, so this went up by 15%. Sure, that's absolutely fine. So currently our standard of living is impoverished, and we're working on it. Our population here is definitely small, and we're working on that too. But our literacy is ticking upwards, and that is great. So we can see 12.14k and 12.15k. Our literacy is definitely going up faster than our population growth, so that is fine. That's all we're really interested in at this point. We're going to want more literacy, no doubt about that, but that looks fine. Okay, so everything is looking reasonable for the moment. We're about to finish up this iron mine up over here. We're also going into debt at this moment. So I'm going to let this iron mine finish, and then we're going to pause construction for a little bit. So we've got about 3 weeks here. What are we paying in our interest rate? Let's see. Interest rate is 0%. That doesn't seem right. Why is our interest rate at 0%? That's kind of wild. If that's the case, we don't care about being in debt. We can just go to the credit, or rather to the debt limit if there's no interest. Yeah, we're not paying interest. That's insane. Okay. I mean, I like it. We can construct for a very long time in that case. Why not? Right? So we're down below 10k peasants at this point. And there we go. So that is apparently peasants less than 35% of our total population. I don't think this is entirely true, what it says here, but it's reduce your number of peasants, right? So that's fine for now. And our number of peasants is continuing to reduce. That is very, very good. So at this point, we can see we are back down to 0 at this point, and that's because of our GDP per capita. Understood. Our GDP per capita is number 24 right now. It's actually pretty decent. So that is good to know. Well, it is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're almost certainly going to pass local police force, and then we'll probably start rolling on colonization. It's not going to go well, but if we get lucky, we'll get it passed. We'll see if it happens. It's not that big of a deal if it doesn't happen anyway. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.